Sadie Sigstad, welcome to the Running Effect podcast. How are you doing this afternoon?
Doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I looking forward to it.
Yesterday was regionals. This will probably come out the week of NCAAs. Obviously, you've been racing kind of nonstop. You've got one more race, which is the big one, the national dance. How's the body feeling one day removed from regionals?
Pretty good, honestly, coming off of yesterday. A lot better than I felt coming off of last year, which is a good sign heading forward. Yeah, just looking forward to this week. Anything can really happen. I really wish I was going with my team. That was a little bit heartbreaking for a few of the seniors that are graduating on my team yesterday, not making it through because I think we were on the edge all season and I don't know. I thought we could do it on the day, but there's so much great depth in the conference. So yeah.
I'm so curious to hear about this. What are Sadie's top recovery tips? Like, how do you get your body right 24 hours after? What are you doing the day of? Like yesterday on the bus, driving back when you get back to campus compared to today? Like, what's your running look like? Do you have the day off? Is it shakeout run? Like, how do you get your body right 24 hours removed from this race?
Yeah, totally. I definitely recovery's been a big game changer for me coming into this year, compared to when I was in my younger years. But I think sleep is probably my biggest thing. I try to get 9, 10 hours a week, which can seem a bit excessive, but I think it really makes a difference. And then I'll personally will take the day off. I know some people like to shake out. I think just at this point in the season, there's not much more you can do. Terms of fitness wise. And I think just showing up at nationals, fresh and ready to go is the most important thing.
Do you use any of the fancy recovery techniques that we now have, like cryotherapy or Normatex, or have you ever dabbled in
Um,
any of the crazy trends we're seeing pop up?
yeah, I am definitely Normatec addict. I probably a couple times a week, sometimes like, if my legs are really killing me, like 5 times a week. We have them in the locker room and there's a lot of other things. Like I know people like to ice bath. I personally not a fan. Yeah, try to keep things simple. I like stretching, yeah, more about like recovery, sleep, food, keeping things simple.
Going through yesterday, obviously the region you're in is one of the most stacked in the country. You've got you, Chloe, Kaylee, a bunch of other top females in the nation. How do you approach a race like that where probably in the back of your head, you know you're going to qualify for the national meet, but there is the team race dynamic that you want to place low so that they have a higher chance of going? What's the dynamic like in your head in terms of how all out you want to go? Because obviously next week is the goal you're working towards, but yesterday, to get to next week, you have to go through yesterday.
Yeah, I think the goal yesterday, especially because we had such big team goals heading in, I wasn't thinking a lot past the race yesterday. Like my coach we talked about, it was kind of get the lowest amount of points you can up there. It's pretty stacked with West Virginia, Providence. I mean, sorry, West Virginia. Penn and Georgetown, they've got some great runners. Two of those teams are so highly ranked that it kind of was a shoo-in for them in terms of the auto bids. But there's a small chance. We were hoping maybe with Penn State. They had an incredible day yesterday. So I think my coach, the focus was kind of with Penn State. And then I think like if you're coming into the finish and are in a comfortable spot with where you are in the race. Like, don't try to kill yourself to get there to the line. But honestly, I feel like one last hard effort. I don't think it's going to take too much out of me heading into next week. And my coach, I think, was just happy that, I gave the team the best shot we could. And, hopefully next year we have more. But yeah.
Speaking of next week, back in Wisconsin, you've already made some magic happen on that course. Speaking on the Nuttycomb win, what was that race like for you? Kind of, I feel like that was like your coming out party. That was like your, I'm here to stay. I'm here to be on a national class level. What was that race like for you? And how excited are you to go back to that course where you made some magic happen a few months ago?
Yeah, definitely. I would say it was a super special moment, an eye opener for me because, I hadn't had any races up until that point, and I'd had a really strong summer. The most consistency I've ever had with running, and I was having these really great workouts. But workouts don't really mean everything. Like you don't know where you're at really until you race. And, heading into that, there was so many names mentioned in like the Stride report, so many teams were coming. I didn't really know what to expect. And my plan was just to like go, whether the race goes out hard, slow, just kind of go with it. And then some girls took it out and I was, feeling really good. And I was like, when we came around to the last lap, I decided to kind of make my moves. But I think, that's given me a lot of confidence. Think coming off that race, it kind of changed my mindset for the rest of the season of like where my goals line at nationals, at regionals. Been lucky that I've had to race strong competition at conference yesterday. And honestly, obviously, nationals, there's so many strong girls right now. I feel like the NCAA is on fire. So I feel like I have no expectations like heading into nationals. I think my goal is just to put myself in the top pack, run with the best girls in the country and then see what happens. I feel like I can't have a set goal because I can kind of honestly name like 50 girls right now that I think are in All-American contention. Like there's just so many girls out there. So, yeah.
Off of that point, something really unique that's unfolded with the 2024 season is with like Parker Valby leaving the NCAA and then the year before Caitlin Toohey leaving the NCAA. It kind of left this gap that we haven't seen in probably 3-4 years where those two were absolutely dominant. They took up like 98% of all like national coverage. They were the only two people talked about in terms of contention for national titles. They both leave, and then it's like who's the who's who in the NCAA. And as you kind of outlined there are plethora of names that we could go through of really top girls who are pushing every single week and doing something incredible, you being one of them. Can you speak deeper to that aspect of how deep the NCAA is, and really for the first time in a couple of years where it's not just one or two people, but it's like 10 people could probably win nationals next week. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. And I'm honored to be a part of such a amazing generation of women that are just getting after it out there. But I know it blows my mind. I think of like even pre-nationals, 5 girls I think went under what Parker Valby ran last year at Nuttycomb. And when Parker Valby ran that, it was like, wow. And then 5 girls to do it. I'm like, what's kind of causing this wave of new runners? And I'm like, it's kind of like when I think like Roger Bannister broke 4 in the mile and then everyone started doing it. And I don't know if it's, the training is definitely improving. We're always like, you know, um, discovering new findings with like recovery and training and double threshold. And I think that definitely is an aspect of it. And then, people have maybe more eligibility, but I think um, for me, I think seeing other girls go out and do amazing things and, be dropping 30 a minute off what they were running the year before, because kind of inspired me and shown me like I can do that too, and opened my eyes on like what I'm capable of. So I think that's definitely played a key factor in just like the new level the NCAA has reached. And it's amazing. Like I think if you're an All-American next week, I think who knows what's going to happen like on the track for you. And I think heading into indoors, like we're going to see some incredible times on the track and maybe some even new records. So yeah.
If you look back at your career, Sadie, you've been remarkably accomplished at every level. And during your time at Villanova, don't get me wrong, like you've run incredible times, like ridiculous times in school history. You've done really big things at the NCAA level, but I'm not sure a lot of people, if you talk to them this past spring, would say, "Oh, this girl's going to win Nuttycomb and be in contention for a national title." What do you think has changed over the past few months that's put you in the position that you are in today, and what's been some of the biggest? What would you attribute some of the recent growth to?
I think just, consistency and being patient. I think my first 2 years, I really struggled with having consistency, and I didn't really understand like the process of running and training and how recovery worked. And I didn't put the focus on recovery. I've always been a very hard worker. I like to get after it. And, I always thought like if I'm putting in the work, the results will come. But I think I neglected a lot of the little things and the other aspects that are so important to running. And I have realized that all those 1% really do add up. And then I think last year was a huge year of growth for me. in cross, I think last year at regionals, like I really felt like I was stepping it up all season. I got sick following regionals, but the rest of the indoor and outdoor, I had some huge PRs. I dropped a minute in my 10K, which was huge for me. But I think I still struggle a lot with like getting sick and just kind of under recovering, especially as the season went on. I think this summer I like really like focused in on those little things, lots of sleep, just gradually building my mileage, not getting ahead of myself with like always wanting to do more because I think less is better. And then this fall kind of just continued doing what's worked for me all summer. And I have been really lucky to have almost like a perfect, clean, no injury, no illness fall. So that's, I think, been the biggest thing, just being patient and with like every workout because it's really the sum of all the days, not just a couple strong weeks in there. So yeah.
Super wise there. You seem very process oriented. So if you don't have thoughts on this question, we can hop off to another one. But what's the fairy tale ending for next week, and how often have you dreamt about winning the national title?
I think the fairy tale ending, I think just to know, I got out there and I left it all out there on the course. Did everything I could to put myself in the best position possible. I think NCAA's, it's often a surprise, what happens on the day, so I feel like I shouldn't, limit my expectations. Like I think I'm going in it with a clear mind. I think with my coach, that's been working for me going into races, not really having like a set place goal and just kind of running and see what happens. But I definitely want to be an All-American. I think a lot of girls probably have that goal, and I'm just gonna put myself in it and see what happens. But yeah, right now, no expectations.
Last time Nationals was at Wisconsin, a lot of snow. Have you looked at the 10-day forecast? If so, what's it looking like? And if you could choose, Sadie, what's the ideal race weather for you for a national meet on grass?
Yeah, I actually saw this morning that it said there's a 35% chance of snow and I
Are you
think
serious?
31 Fahrenheit. Yeah, and I think it honestly made my day. 'Cause that's ideal weather. I think for me it's so similar to home. I'm from the mountains in Canada, so we have lots of skiing and snowing, and a lot of my cross country races in high school, we were like had leggings, like long sleeve, like full snow on the ground. So I think I'm used to it, and it's like exciting because I think it adds another element to the race. That you rarely encounter, and I think it'll be a lot of people's first time in the snow, which could use to my advantage. I like colder weather for the cross country races. I found Wisconsin pretty hot actually. I remember on the day I was like, "Whoa, like this is cooking." And my freshman year when it was in Florida, I thought it was really hot. So I think this works to my yeah what I'm used to, and my it was what I had hoped for coming off of Nuttycomb. So yeah.
You mentioned the mountains of Canada and growing up in Canada. So let's go all the way back to young Sadie. Take me through your start in the sport of running and what your first impressions of the sport were.
Yeah, so I would say I honestly started fairly early. Like grade 7, I was doing cross country races. I wasn't really training, but I would do lots of like school races, and I just like naturally loved running. My mom ran, and my sister ran too. So I think it was kind of, don't think I would have ever joined the sport if it hadn't been for them, but kind of naturally just fell in love with it. And then by like grade 8 or 9, I started to get more serious about it, and especially in high school. I got pretty serious and I was training full time with a club. And then COVID hit, so I didn't really get grade 11 or 12 on the track. I got grade 10 was my last season. So that definitely created a lot of uncertainty with recruitment. But I'm lucky I had some good PRs from my sophomore year in high school. But I think I honestly, track's not a very popular sport where I come from, just because it's so cold in Alberta, and people like tend to gravitate towards skiing and like snowboarding, hockey. more winter sports. But I was lucky that there's a great club. My coach, Phil Booth, he was incredible at he's from Britain, and he was incredible at getting me like really inspired into it and just made things fun. And yeah, so I had a really great high school experience.
Before you hit the record button, you were sharing a little bit with me about your support system and how you accredit a lot of your success and consistency and longevity in the sport to them. Can you take me through some of those key individuals you think who have played a pivotal role in the success in the Sadie we're seeing today?
Yeah, totally. I think since I've been at Villanova, Gina Procascio, she has a huge legacy in the sport. She's been doing it, coaching now for 30 years at Villanova. Same with Marcus. And Gina's been incredible at just developing me as an athlete over these 4 years. I didn't have crazy PRs coming in the NCAA. And she's just like really had that belief in me that over time like I slowly could be one day at the top level, which was huge for me because I really struggled with that confidence and belief coming out of high school. And just for her to see that so early, it kind of was like really encouraging, like, oh wow, like I could do something. And I see her do it with younger girls too, which is great. And I think she's been so patient with me through the whole 4 years, and it's just been like I would say a slow gradual climb. And I mean, progress with anyone isn't linear, so I think that's where the patience has really had to come in with me and her, and working on that relationship. And just she's been really patient at figuring out what works for me with training wise, and the kind of athlete I am. And that's been amazing, just having that support system. And then I'm very close with my family. I think most importantly, my sister, she ran too. She unfortunately had some health issues that kind of derailed her running career, but I think she's like been my biggest supporter with running. I talk to her every day on the phone. I ask her honestly everything about my running. I check in with her daily. I'm always like on the phone with her, like it's 10 p.m. the night before my regionals, and I'm talking to her on FaceTime and just going through the race. And I honestly don't think I'd be here without her. So yeah, I think those would be maybe the two people I'd want to spotlight, I think, the most and attribute my success to.
When you were in high school, did you always think that this was going to be the path? Like, was the NCAA your end goal and dream? And take me through the process of recruitment and maybe some advice for someone from Canada or Europe or Australia or wherever they might be in the world listening who has dreams of running in the NCAA, but they don't quite know what it takes to get there.
Yeah, totally. I think when I first started running, I was pretty drawn to, I guess the NCAA can have, it looks very like sparkly and just like you see all the media, and you see like the NCAA championships, and I was so attracted to how much like publicity it got. And I thought like if, I want to one day run professionally, like that's like kind of the only route. Um, and then as I got into high school, running, I had some more struggles with running, and I think had a tendency to do too much, and I wasn't improving. I was kind of stagnating a little bit, and that's when I kind of turned my focus to maybe look at like some Canadian schools, because I also, had heard some reputation that maybe the NCAA, there's a tendency to overtrain and people get hurt and they have a really bad experience. And I'd had some Canadian friends that had poor experiences at some programs. And I was like a bit hesitant maybe to go. And then I started talking to a bunch of schools, and I really fit well with Gina because she was like it was a smaller school, and she'd had a lot of success with past Canadians. And that was really like, that meant a lot to me because they'd come from similar backgrounds to me. Um, and she just like, when she laid out like the training, she was very like focused, like, if you're only doing this much right now, like we can start there. We don't have to jump your freshman year. And that would like really draw me in. And I think just the legacy that she has. So I honestly, for Canadians that are looking at the US, I've noticed like a lot in the past 5 years that a lot more Canadians are going to the US. I think it can be an incredible experience. And I don't think I would be at the level I am now if I had stayed in Canada, because I think the environment just pushes you in terms of like PRs and just constantly improving. And I'm really happy I made the decision I did.
You mentioned a few minutes ago that in high school you struggled with confidence and belief in your own words, and that Gina helped you overcome some of that. I think confidence and belief are things that almost every athlete at every level struggles with. I think as you ascend levels, you slowly learn how to overcome them, or at least have the tools to combat them when those thoughts come up. For you, what have been some of the biggest ways in which you've built up confidence and belief over the past few years?
Yeah, definitely. I think honestly the races are the biggest confidence boosters, like having strong performances. But it's definitely hard, I think, especially with how competitive the NCAA is now. Like if you go into a loaded field and you don't have the performance you were looking for, it's really hard to like rebound and kind of reset your mindset going into the next when these races are only like 2 weeks apart. And don't let that poor performance derail your confidence for the rest of the season. Because I've had, I think coming off a Nuttycomb, for example, Princeton didn't go the way I liked, and that was really upsetting for me, to have like such a high and then kind of like a performance I wasn't really too happy about. And I kind of had to reset going into Big East and championship season that like it's just one race. Like it doesn't define your season or where you're at fitness wise. And I think that's the hardest thing for I think athletes to manage. So I think I've worked a lot with my coach and like about talking through these things. And I think with my sister and my teammates, like we talk about like week in week out, like how we're feeling and just like I think positive self-talk, it sounds stupid in the moment, but I actually do think it can have like it can make a huge difference on your performance to kind of just like reiterate, like, I've done this, I've put in these workouts, I've done this training, I had a huge summer, like, why not me out there today? Like, why should I count myself out? So I think that's been the biggest thing for me because I never really, looked at that aspect heading into races. And it's definitely been a huge made a huge difference this season.
As I kind of detailed and chronicled, you've had such a historic career at Villanova, but particularly this season is where you've taken things to the next level. With some of these recent results and races, how has your mindset expanded in terms of when you think about the future and your future plans? And can you take me through, yeah, is the dream to run professional? Is it come back for a fifth year? What are your kind of thoughts for 2025 and beyond?
Yeah, definitely. I think I definitely want to come back for my fifth year and use that last year of eligibility. Because last outdoor, I feel like I got to go into my first NCAA finals, and that was an amazing experience. And I had a good race, but I think it really left me wanting more. And I think I would love this outdoor season to give it another go and then have a my final, shot during my fifth year. But I would love to run pro if the opportunity presents itself. That's definitely something I'd be really interested in doing. And Canada right now, I think a lot of our best Canadians are in the NCAA. I think there's been an emergence of like young girls coming up the ranks. Even in my race yesterday, I think three of the top four are Canadians. So
Wow.
it's gonna be tough. But one day I would love to represent Canada at a games or something. Yeah.
For a young Canadian girl listening who looks up to you and your journey and progression in the sport, what would be some words of advice to them in terms of getting the most out of themselves within the sport of running?
Yeah, I think honestly the same kind of pillars, just like be consistent, confidence, be patient with it. I think it's such a long-term game that I wish I had been more like big pictured it when I was younger. And I think I've learned that over the years to more think of the big picture because I think you can take shortcuts to get to where you want to be. But I think if you want like goal A instead of goal B, like I think just consistently putting in the work. I think if you do that and you're putting in the hard work and you're remaining patient, like you eventually will get there. Everyone's timeline is going to be different, and I think that's where being patient comes in. But I think for girls that maybe aren't at that top level coming out of high school, I would say like don't count yourself out. Because I think my freshman year I may have done that, just seeing like phenoms, and you go into this huge, you're a small fish in a big pond, and I wish I had done that less because I even noticed with some of the freshmen on our team that, they just go out there and race and they're not even really thinking and putting expectations on themselves. They run so much better. So, yeah.
Sadie, I've loved this conversation. Appreciate you sharing all these insights and wisdom from your career, particularly in the thick of your season. To wrap up the conversation, I want to ask you one final question. The question I ask every single guest on every single episode. If you had Gordon Ramsay coming over to your house for dinner, what would you choose to make for him?
Ooh, I know he's famous for probably a few meals, but I think I love Mexican food. It's like my favorite, so maybe something like shrimp tacos or salmon, something seafood, like maybe a spread. I think I'd go all out. Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
the what's the like if I was to go to Canada, what would be like what's the Canadian staple? I know like maple syrup's a big thing there, but outside of
Ooh.
that, what are the
I feel
as an
like
American,
East
what should I know about the
Coast.
country?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, that's tough. Maple syrup, I feel like across the country, East Coast, especially like Quebec, poutine. Where I'm from, yeah, I would say maple syrup's definitely up there. I don't know if you've ever heard of a beaver tail, but it's like
No.
it's like
Sounds scary
it's a treat.
and
No,
gross.
it's delicious. It's like almost like a pizza, but it's like all sweet. So it's like a piece of flatbread, and then like you might have like maple syrup, Nutella, chocolate, strawberries. It's great. It's delicious.
Wait, so no beaver? Why why is it called a beaver
I don't
tail?
know. I think because of the shape of it. It's like a shape of a circle.
Okay, they need to rename
Yeah.
that because you said that. I was like, I thought you meant legitimate like beaver tail. I was like,
You were
disgusting.
like,
No way
"Oh
am I eating
boy."
that.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I'll pass. No, that sounds good. Okay, good to know. Good to know. Well, Sadie, appreciate you taking the time to come on the podcast and really excited to see all the things you'll accomplish. I guess in the next week, but also in this next year as you take your fifth year. And it's been so cool to see your quick ascent and rise to the sport. And just from this conversation, you're such a good person who's giving back to the sport in so many ways. So keep crushing it, rooting for you, and excited to see you thrive, hopefully in the snow next week in Wisconsin.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thank you so much again for having me.